This is day 3 of recording in front of the camera for 30 minutes per day. And since yesterday, I have decided to really lock this into a regular occurrence where I share it onto YouTube. So this is part of an accountability, and this is also for me to share in a raw way and to put it out being unrefined. Because refinement is one of these things that only occurs through practice, and without actually putting the thing up, without actually putting it out, there can be, well, for myself, there's been that fear of, what if I'm not enough? Or what if what I put out isn't good enough? And this challenge is basically to dispel all of that and to go, well, you know what? It doesn't matter whether I'm good enough or not enough or too much. It simply matters that I turn up. That's all that matters, because when I turn up, I improve. Same thing with you. So if you're coming across this, noting you're on the 3rd video if you've got to this point, and also if you're at this point and you're seeing it, like, I hope I'm providing some sort of value, because ultimately this is me going through the journey. So you'll see, hopefully, my improvement, because that is my goal. My intentions are to improve my long form content and allow myself to flow, because that can often be one of the things that stops us when we go to share in front of a camera, is that we go cold or we start trying to pretend to be someone. And in the past, I've done some Instagram story challenges. These are ones where I've set out to post a story every day, and that's a 1-minute story every day. And 1 minute is fairly easy to turn up for. Then this being 30 minutes a day is like, well, it's requiring me to get into that zone. Because what happened to me last year was I was getting into the realm of, I was like, I'm going to release a podcast and I'm going to do all this sort of stuff. All this self-judgment came up, and realized that the self-judgment doesn't really have any weight anymore, because it means more to me to win at this game than it does to not play. I would rather play the game and potentially lose, fail. Like, I want to fail. Give me failures, because then I can learn. One of the most valuable things that I learned from 2023 was actually the claiming of my lessons that have happened in my past. Claiming the lessons of my past. Claiming the lesson of the failures of my past. And in doing that, I've been able to see my shortcomings, the things where I hold myself back, the things where I hide in fear. And actually, this is something that came up the other day, was I couldn't sleep the other night. I woke up at about 11 o'clock. I'd gone to sleep about 10 o'clock. And this was a few weeks ago. There was some intense storms. And after the storm, I just had my mind racing. So I went for a big walk. I was walking for about 2 hours or so, just middle of the night. And I was reflecting on what fear is to me. Like, how do I define fear personally? And the conclusion that I came up with is simply, fear is the thing that holds us. Fear is ourselves protecting us from our true self. And it's essentially the ego. Fear is my ego that is stopping me from achieving who I am and stopping me from embodying who I am, which is this massive soul expression. And it's got everything to it. And within that, there is the aspect of, well, whilst I'm sharing on this camera, I'm going to be practicing how to entertain people. So the idea is to be authentically entertaining and to riff on things and stay in my body to not dissociate, because what often happens when we go to do public speaking is we get, well, for myself, I tend to dip into this kind of boring state where I'm like kind of just letting things out, versus what is actually alive in me. Because in assuming that I'm talking to someone, which I am, then, because if you're watching this, that means that I'm talking to you. And that's the cool part about this. Now, and if you're meant to be hearing this, then you'll be listening right now. This element of fear, what it does for us in our lives, and how it's been highlighting to me my areas where I'm looking to grow, the areas that are going to provide the most growth for me. And that is things like claiming what I want. That is actually playing the game instead of playing not to lose, which I'll go into in a second. And yeah, that fear is when I have something that I've created or that I've seen that is bigger than myself, that requires a lot of effort, it requires a lot of commitment, and it requires a lot of devotion to, which is the achievement of a big goal. Within that achievement of a big goal is, well, a lot of things have to go. There are a lot of things, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of habits that I have currently that will not be able to hang on throughout the next stage of my life. And so it's a shedding. Every single time we look at that fear, to reframe it, the fear being the indication that we're actually looking at something that is going to develop us and help us to evolve into a next stage. And so listen to that fear. And then once you notice that fear, it's time to see what voices are arising, to see what stories come up when you consider that fear. Like, what is that fear stopping you from doing? And when you listen to that fear, what steps do you actually take? Because if you're listening to the fear, chances are you believe it to some extent. Because when we believe these things, they tend to hang around more and more and more. They become more powerful. And yet if we don't feed into them, then they lose their power. And so in order to take stock of the past, we can dip into that and find those things and find out why that fear is arising. Where that fear is arising may be something to do with something that a parent said, something that a friend said, something earlier on in your life where you started to believe that, well, it wasn't safe to pursue a dream. Maybe it was not okay to dream big, because it makes people feel inferior within their own expression. It highlights to people where they have dead dreams. And you look at their eyes and their eyes have glazed over because they've left their dreams in the past, and they have a silent resentment that they don't have it anymore. And so for yourself, at whatever point in the journey that you are, if you're listening to this, there may be a yearning to grow. There may be a yearning to expand and to lean into the things that are uncomfortable for you. This is why I'm making these videos, because this is pretty uncomfortable for me still. After doing the 30-day story challenge, I developed quite a lot of confidence in myself, so I can now put the camera in front of my face and record. The extended videos was quite an edge. And so if there's something that you are looking to grow into, what steps, how can you simplify the steps in order to get to that space? Can you make it a really basic step-by-step plan? Because if you look at something that is, let's say, looking in a strategizing perspective and how to connect the dots, if you have that dream, the thing that keeps it a fear in your reality is not being able to connect the dots between, because it seems like a mystery. And when there's a mystery there is fear. It's the reason a lot of people are afraid of swimming in the ocean, is because they don't know what's underneath the ocean. They don't know what's beneath the water. They can't see it. Therefore, there is fear. And as soon as people dip their head underwater and they put some goggles on, they go, oh, this isn't so scary after all. There's maybe the occasional fish. It's not as scary as sitting on top of the water. And so when people spend more time in the water, they become more accustomed to the things that are under the water. For example, there's sharks under the water, there's fish, there's stingrays, there's all sorts of things. And until we actually see those things directly, well, they are unknowns. And whilst they're unknowns, there's fears, because what if I die? One of the greatest fears. And so when we feed into fear around that goal, there is no connecting of the dots. It's simply, I feel this way about this goal right now. I don't know how to get there. Yet, can you be okay with that mystery? Can you be okay with it enough that you are going to work it out? And then you can work backwards actually from it. That's what I've been practicing lately, is seeing that goal and that vision and reverse engineering it and going, cool, well, if I were to be at this point, what is it that requires of me? For example, I have a goal and a mission, a vision of playing music in front of 10,000 people. Now that goal requires me to be the kind of person that is capable of playing in front of 10,000 people. That is a following, that is having music out, having music videos, having a social media following, being comfortable in all circumstances, being entertaining at gigs instead of simply performing. Because if I'm, instead of just playing the music, because if, like what happened to me in the past was, you would have heard in my previous videos, I was constantly sitting there singing songs and wasn't actually performing. I wasn't being an entertainer. And so whilst that component was missing, it's like I was 50% chunk that wasn't even included, 50% of what that role was. And there's also other components that I wasn't taking care of, which is business. It's actually going, hey, I'm going to treat this like a business. So maybe it wasn't 50%. So we got the actual creative side of it. Then there's the entertaining side of it. And then there's also the management / business sides of things. There's many components within that I was ignoring. And I was like, I just want to play the music. I don't want to have to talk to anyone. I don't want to have to do anything else. That was also the limitation. So that was me giving in to fear. That was me saying that, okay, fear, you win. I'm not going to open up to the crowd. I don't want anyone to interact. And so that was my limitation. Now moving back into this fear space, like what is fear? I'd like to know what fear is for you in the comments. If you can share with me what fear is to you, I'd love to hear, and how you define it. And also, what are your steps for moving out of it? Is it to start moving towards a new endeavor? Is there something that's being highlighted to you that you want to lean into, something really uncomfortable? Maybe it's a conversation that you're not having that you want to have. Maybe it's a business pursuit. Maybe it's entrepreneurial. Maybe it's drawing a piece of art. Maybe it's simply turning up on social media. Maybe it's doing videos on YouTube. Maybe you desire to be an influencer. Maybe you desire to speak in front of thousands of people. Maybe you want to inspire people. Maybe you want to work at a cafe. Maybe you simply want to be a good teacher, a good mother, a good father. And in order to lean into any of those things, it takes courage. To even be a good parent takes courage, because it requires humility. It requires going, actually, there's someone's needs that are more important than my own. It requires me to turn up in a confident and almost fearless way. And also admit to one's own limitations. To be constantly learning, to be leaning into your edges. And so yeah, fear is fear is fun. And now this has reached a point where I'm wondering what to say next. Great part of this journey. Hence why I'm doing these videos. I'm looking at my timing and it says 17 minutes have gone by. Got 13 minutes to fill. When I get into some topics, I just want to keep talking. And certain topics, there's areas where I get stuck. And these videos are about talking about those things. So when I get stuck, what do? I've set myself a goal and I'm going to talk about that thing that comes up instead of forcing myself to adhere to a certain topic. This is also highlighted to me now, the importance of pre-framing a podcast episode when I'm doing the podcast, and the benefits of setting those things out, because my podcast is going to be solid and I'm not going to wait until the podcast arrives to start improving, because that was the steps. This is me connecting the steps to doing that. I've actually got 2 episodes that are on my Spotify, and I'm putting this down to a quality thing, because if I have people coming to look at my podcasts, I want to have the practice put in, because they're going to be edited. There's going to be all sorts of things. And this format is just loose. So call it a prequel to me releasing more podcasts. If you guys want to check out the podcast, it's called Masters of Attention. And it's funny how I'm doing these videos when I could be doing these on my podcast. Really reflecting on, maybe I can take snippets out of these videos and make them, that's something to think about. I may do that. I may do a compilation of gold from these videos and put them into a podcast. Because at times I go on good rants and I feel like there's something valuable. And whilst I'm talking about this, I'm self-reflecting and I'm not entertaining you. So this is the thing. So we're live. I'm talking to you. So part of my learning experience, all right, lesson learned. How do I keep engaging with the audience? Now, assuming you may be asking me questions, you may have questions or something like that. So if you do have questions for me and you want me to answer them in the next video, I'd love to do that. And, all right. So, man, there's a fear that I have on this topic. A fear that I have of being judged. There's a fear that I have of people watching this and going, what an idiot. There's all of these voices that are, like, I'm hearing them and they're going, you can't share this particular topic. You can't share this because people are going to see it. There's going to be people watching. And ultimately, someone may never even watch these videos, and that's sometimes hard to comprehend. Okay, so fear. I used to have a fear of the dark. When I was a kid, I used to, or say younger, in my teens, I got my first TV, and my first TV was this little 34 centimeter thing. It was pretty smallish. Little TV that I got from, yeah, it doesn't really matter where I got it from. I bought this TV and it lived in my room. I would sit up till all hours of the night and end up watching things on channel SBS, ABC, whatever was on late, and I would watch these like horror movies and thrillers and things that got me kind of shaky in my boots. And I would run from my room. Like I would have the light on in my room, and then I would run to the bathroom in the middle of the night, afraid, and I would have to get that light on as quickly as possible because the darkness was terrifying. And then I would go to the bathroom, turn the light off, and run. I'd run to my room because that was safe. And it's such an interesting phenomenon, like why we are actually afraid of the dark. As being afraid of the dark is it's the same thing as what I was talking about before. It's the fear of the unknown, because when the lights are out, we don't see what's out there. Same thing with the ocean concept. And whilst we're feeding into this fear, our imagination runs wild with fear. And that's something else to note, because when we're in fear, our creative mind goes wild, imagining all the possibilities and all of that sort of thing. And imagine if you were to use that fear for something productive, for something that helps you create your vision. And instead of feeding that creativity into fear, you were like, well, you know what? I'm going to use it to create my dream life. And quite often the tendency is to say, well, I'm not that creative. It's like, you can create like the fear from hell, and that story that's so convincing that you believe it wholeheartedly. So why not create a vision that actually serves a purpose, that serves your greater purpose, that serves the expansion of your awareness, that serves the expression of your soul? How do you do that? That to me is the question that I'm asking myself. How can I create an engaging story that everyone wants to listen to, including me? Because I'm the first person that hears my voice. And this leads me into my voice work. As a musician, as a voice coach, I'm fascinated with the voice and how it works and what are the different elements of the voice. How can we make our voice sound really nice? How can we really enjoy our own voices? How can we invite others to enjoy our voice? And ultimately, it comes down to this embodiment that sits behind our voice, which is the conviction of our own journey, the conviction of our story, the conviction of us standing behind what we believe. And also at the same time, these beliefs, they don't always stay stuck. Sometimes we shift beliefs. In fact, we change beliefs quite frequently, especially when we're going through a self-development journey. And this is what I've been doing. My beliefs are all over the place. I have my core values. The beliefs themselves shift quite a lot. And in order to allow this to happen has required a lot of flexibility in my mind, in my body, to not shrink up when a new belief or a new idea comes my way, because it may be time to uproot that. My old beliefs, I just felt a little bit of my, When I mention those things, sometimes I get like an energetic closing of the heart. Like I can feel it feels like almost like guilt. And because it highlights to me when I talk about it, what is like where I hold back. This is around speaking into my vision, about speaking into my story. And really claiming my role in this world and claiming my position, claiming what it is that I want. And so for the last few minutes, I'm going to speak about the things that I want. And that's an edge for me. So let's do that. That's the thing that I'm fearing right now. So firstly, framing this, needs are not the same as wants. So the things that I need are things like I need food to survive. I don't need to eat takeaway food. I don't need to eat fast food. I don't need to eat any particular type of food. Well, maybe if we're looking at whole foods, then ultimately there is a want and a desire to eat certain types of food. That's not a need. So for example, if you need food because you're hungry and you say, I need to eat McDonald's, that's more of a want and a desire. And so in claiming the want and the desire is to say, hey, I don't actually need to justify. There's no justification required for wanting that. I simply want it because I want it. And we can go into deeper reasons as to why those things are there and what they actually create. For the next share, as far as my wants and desires, as a musician, I have this dream, a vision of playing music in front of 10,000 people. That is something that I'm claiming. I also have a vision of being extremely wealthy, money, to have access to anything that I want, to have access to the cars that I want, to whatever property that I want to own, wherever I want to live in the world, to have this sense of freedom. There is a freedom that I desire. And there is a claiming of, this is the harder one, claiming that I want to be famous and really owning that fame desire. Because in order to, herein comes the justification, right? I can hear the justification right now. I want to be famous because in order to have the people and the fans, actually that's an equation. In order to play in front of 10,000 people, it requires fame. It goes hand in hand. There's fame of having fans, having people that are supporters of what I do, people who love what I do. And so fame is a part of that. Also, noting within that even just being on this platform, if you're watching this, there's some minute level of fame that's here because, well, you're watching this video. So seeing fame as a spectrum. So to be famous is to be known by a large amount of people, to define that. So fame, to be, let's say, to have 1 million people know who I am and know of my existence. And so that's a claiming, right? So I want 1 million, that's a hard one to say. I desire to have 1 million people know who I am. And that's cool. You see me go through the process of publicly claiming things. So I want 1 million people to know who I am and know my name and to enjoy my music. And this also ties in with this work, which is also voice coaching, which is being a form of influencer, which is being a public speaker, being a voice for people to help release their voices. So that, again, there's a realm of millions of people that come into that. It's the figure that seems relevant to me. I desire to have fun in my life. I desire to have purpose. I desire to have a fulfilling mission, something where I feel a heart and soul alignment. And anything that doesn't serve that heart and soul alignment won't serve a purpose. So in seeing that big vision that's ahead, is claiming all of the things that also do not belong in that vision. For example, there are people who, if there's someone who does not support what I do, I'm not going to spend time with that person. If there is someone who does support what I do, then I'll choose to spend time around them. This is that whole concept of, are the people that we're surrounded by actually lifting us up, or are they keeping us at a certain, simmering at a low level? When if we surrounded ourselves with people who are at boiling point, then we're going to be sitting at that level as well. Really, really just alchemizing. And so, that's my 30 minutes for today. Hope you've gained some value from this. And I'd love to hear any in the comments if you've enjoyed what I've been talking about, if you have any feedback for me, if there's anything that you particularly loved about what I shared, if there was a point where I lost you completely. And all feedback's welcome. I'd love it. Bring the love, the hate, the criticism, all of this stuff, because that's what this is for, right? So I'm here to grow, and I don't expect to be perfect. In fact, I expect to be turning up in my rawest form and to be real with you. So peace out. I'll see you tomorrow.